Good morning. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us be happy. I really don't have a lot of announcements this morning. Nobody called me and told me of that. Hopefully we can talk maybe some this week. Maybe somebody can give me a call, or I'll try to give you a call and talk over the phone this week. I have a children's story this morning. So for your children now, how many of you have a blanket that you carry around and it's a comfort to you? You go to bed with it and sleep with it, or a teddy bear. I've told you before that when I was growing up, I had a teddy bear. His name was Pete. I had him with me for a really, really long time. And it always made me feel better to have him there with me. But I found out as I got older that I can count on Jesus a lot more than what I can count on the teddy bear or mine. That Jesus is with me all of the time. He's put the Holy Spirit in my heart, and so He's there all the time. And in times of trouble, there are times when we're scared, times when you don't really know what to do. That's a good time for us to turn to Jesus and ask Him for help, and He will help us. Well, my scripture for this morning is from John 14, 15 through 21. If you love me, you will keep my commandments. And I will ask the Father, and He will give you another advocate to be with you forever. This is the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive because it neither sees Him nor knows Him. But you know Him, because He abides with you, and you will be in Him. I will not leave you orphaned. I am coming to you. In a little while, the world will no longer see me, but you will see me. Because I live, you also will live. On that day, you will know that I am in the Father, and you in me, and I in you. They who have my commandments and keep them are those who love me. And those who love me will be loved by my Father. And I will love them and reveal myself to them. Well, I've got something for you to think about this morning. There was a poll taken by the Center of Governance of Change in the United Kingdom, and it revealed that 25% of European citizens believed that robots and artificial intelligence would do a better job of making policy decisions than their politicians would. Kind of tempted to throw in my 2 cents there, and I will. Matthew and I, well, Matthew mostly, because I don't know anything about it, but Matthew just had a battle with his computer. He never could get it to work. And so now we're going back to the old system that we used to start with, and so I hope what you get here is good. But I'm not ready to turn everything over to robots. Now in Germany and the Netherlands, the figures are even higher. According to this poll, citizens throughout Europe are so disillusioned by the political leaders that they believe that robots and computers would do a better job of governing their country than what humans would. You know, this I think is kind of a sad commentary on our lack of trust in leaders. When will we become so cynical? I personally am not quite ready to trust a robot or artificial intelligence program to make policies that decide our laws and our regulations and how we'll run our society. At least not yet, anyway. Well, you think that political robots are a little bit scary. Then what about religious robots and religious leaders? According to recent news from Buddhist, Hindu, and Protestant Christian communities in Japan, China, India, and Germany are now experimenting with priest robots who can provide pre-programmed blessings and even deliver sermons and in fact perform funerals. Now, what are the benefits of having a robust spiritual leader? Well, some people say that they wouldn't have the same bias that human beings have, that they can learn and update their software so that they can improve their interactions with humans. The Buddhist temple steward of China had this to say about a robot chief priest who presided over his temple services. This robot will never die. It will just keep updating itself and evolving. With artificial intelligence, we hope it will grow in wisdom and help people overcome even the most difficult troubles. Pretty interesting. Religious leader that will keep updating itself and evolving and never die. Does anybody see a problem with that? Well, I think that artificial intelligence may be able to evolve, but it will never know the power of the Holy Spirit guiding. It may be able to update itself, but it will never have the Spirit of truth living within it. And a spiritual leader who never faces his or her own death can offer an example of wisdom, grace, or courage when we wrestle with the meaning of life. How do we live fully and faithfully in the limited time that we have here on earth? Can a software program relate to the internal struggles of facing our own mortality? In our Bible passage today, Jesus knows that he's heading toward his death. He needs to know if his disciples really trust his leadership. And he wonders, well, will they remember his message and his mission when he's gone? What is the one thing the disciples will need to carry on his work in transforming the world? I think Jesus had a good reason for asking that question. Chapter 13, the passage leading up to this one, Jesus had knelt down to be the lowest servant and wash the feet of his disciples. Now, I'm pretty sure these men were all shocked, humbled, and probably a lot confused by his actions. But we only know for sure about Simon Peter and Judas Philip. Simon objected to what Jesus was doing and he tried to stop Jesus. Judas Iscariot simply left the group. He never returned disciples. Now, can we profess our love all day long? And we do that. But then how do we prove it? Judas had lived with Jesus, eaten with him, and ministered with him for 3 years. He had all the marks of someone who loved Jesus. But in the end, he betrayed the master. When you're in leadership, it's difficult to know when to trust. People may follow you because they're drawn by your energy, your popularity, or your wisdom, or in my case, my good looks. That might be relative to me, I don't know. But leaders know that just because someone follows them, it doesn't mean that they love you. It doesn't mean that you carry on your work when you're not there. So how do you tell the difference? You know, I think this was probably Jesus' last major rallying cry before his arrest and his crucifixion. He needed to know which of his disciples would tough it out and follow his example, and which ones would give up and walk away. Which ones would fall on their own sword for him, and which ones would fall to pieces. You know, and that's the question I think that we have to answer in the church today. You know, it's really easy, I think, to be a Christian in our culture that we have. We don't face significant persecution or arrest by declaring our faith. There are churches in every community in our nation. There are Christian television stations and radio stations, Christian movie streaming services, and Christian book clubs. Celebrities even give interviews on their faith in Jesus. Just about every presidential major candidate claims to be a Christian, or at least to respect Christian values. Christians in our culture look and act like everybody else. So, how do you tell the difference? Jesus said that the difference is found in this. If you love me, keep my commandments. You know, that's easy enough. If we love Jesus, we'll keep Jesus' commandments. So if we don't keep his commandments, no amount of Christian t-shirts or Christian podcasts or soul-searching small group discussions will help at all. If we love him, we will keep his commandments. So, what are Jesus' commandments? We could look probably at the very first commandment that Jesus made in the book of John 1:42 when he told Philip, simply follow me. Or we could look at his last commandment in John 21:22 when he told Peter, you must follow me. But in between these first and last chapters, Jesus gave a crystal clear commandment that was at the very heart of his ministry. 2,000 years ago, it was at the very heart, and it still is today. This very day. It's in John 13:34 and 35. So now I am giving you a new commandment. Love each other, just as I have loved you. You should love each other. Your love for one another will prove to the world that you are my disciples. So it's pretty evident that how we love other people shows how we are following Jesus. Now that would be nice if it was just the people that I like that I need to love. But it goes beyond that. I need to even do my very best to love those who aren't near as nice as what I am. And we all need to do that. It's interesting what Jesus left out here. He didn't command the disciples to be eloquent preachers or skilled leaders or even courageous witnesses to an unbelieving society. He commanded them to love one another just as he had loved them. A commandment coming from God in the flesh is really non-negotiable. It's not what Jesus wished for us or even recommended for us. It's what he commanded us to do. You know, actually, I think every one of God's commandments are a challenge to us. But they're also a gift to us. God's commands protect us from harm and provide order and justice in human relationships. So, we can hear the word command as a burden or as a challenge. Or we can hear it as a gift. And I think that's what Jesus intended with this new commandment that he gave us. Loving like Jesus loves is a central requirement for discipleship because it gives our life purpose. It requires a sacrifice, and it changes lives. It changes a lot of lives. Loving like Jesus gives us purpose. In this sense, Jesus' command is a gift. How many of us know people who are never really satisfied? We're always chasing after accomplishments or milestones that will give them a sense of purpose. It's exhausting and frustrating to build your life around titles or accomplishments or even image. When you base your life's purpose on eternal values and achievements, then you're always living with a divided mind. Nothing is ever good enough. You never know when you have fulfilled your purpose. Jesus gave us a gift when he took this conflict away from us. When Jesus commanded us to love one another as he loved us, he was removing our own agenda and priorities and replacing them with his own. The moment that you accept Jesus as your Lord, your life purpose becomes loving others like Jesus did. No title, no accomplishment can provide the joy and the satisfaction of putting love into action on behalf of others. When a boy named Roger was in junior high, his parents divorced, and he moved to Ohio with his mother and siblings into a crowded house. He spent most nights sleeping on a cold floor or a tiny closet. It was just the situation that we were in, Roger remembered. Roger's childhood struggles taught him to be sensitive to others' needs and to build his life around something more than his own happiness. Then one day, Roger came across statistics about how many children didn't have beds in his hometown of Logan, Ohio. Stunned by the information, he needed to do something about it. He found a nonprofit organization in Idaho called Sleep in Heavenly Peace. And what it does is makes bunk beds for children in need. So Roger flew to Iowa, learned how to make those bunk beds, then flew back to Ohio and started a chapter of this nonprofit in his own hometown. He recruited volunteers and sponsors, and they began making bunk beds for children in need in Logan, Ohio. It's all worth it when you see the smiles on the faces of the kids, Roger said. There was one little girl who asked me, "Why are you doing this?" I told her, "Because we love you." Roger found his life purpose in building bunk beds for children who didn't have a bed. In other words, he found his life purpose in loving others. And his commitment to this purpose brings him great joy and inspires and touches the lives of others. Jesus' mission and message live on in his work. And Jesus' message can live on in our work if we truly love one another. Loving like Jesus always requires sacrifice. Sacrificing some part of yourself for something, or for someone you love, only enlarges your love and grows you into the person God created you to be. In fact, I would argue that sacrifice is the greatest proof of love. Jesus told his disciples in this passage for the day that if we love him, then he will show himself to us. What an astonishing promise. Jesus will show himself to those who love him. And Jesus gave us the ultimate example of sacrificing himself for those that he loved. So, when we sacrifice ourselves in an act of love, we are letting the Spirit of Jesus come alive in us. I want to tell you about a Christian woman named Maria Dreyer. Maria was born in 1837 on the mission field in China. Her parents died when Maria was very young, and she was sent to live with a relative in England. But Maria caught her parents' missionary spirit, even though they were no longer with her physically. At age 16, her and her sister returned to China to serve as missionaries themselves. A few years later, Maria married a missionary named Hudson Taylor, a name that some people may recognize. The two of them worked to show people in China about Christ and to care for the many destitute Chinese children. The ministry altogether was powerful, but was tragically short. Maria died of cholera at the age of 43, but her tombstone has these words on it: "For her to live was Christ, and to die was gain." Maria Dreyer Taylor understood the sacrifices God had called her to make. Her parents died on the mission field. 4 of her children died on the mission field. Other Christian organizations often criticized the Taylor ministry. None of these heartbreaking frustrations affected her commitment. She always knew that she would give up her life to send the message of Jesus to the Chinese people. Loving like Jesus requires sacrifice. And finally, I think loving like Jesus actually changes life. Love is the most powerful force in the universe because it has the power of life in it. It has the power to create new things, to open minds, to heal hearts, to unite enemies, to make a difference. You cannot carry the power of love in your heart and mind and not be changed by it. You will be changed by it. This is how Jesus fulfilled his promise that he will show himself to those who love him. When we love like Jesus, he changes our identity and our priorities into his identity and his priority. And that change doesn't just affect our lives, it affects everyone around us. Back in 2006, journalist Kathleen Curzan covered an awards ceremony in which a Frenchman named Jean Grenier was receiving a humanitarian award for his work with disabilities. In 1964, Werner had witnessed how few social supports were available to people with disabilities in France. His faith in God motivated him to invite 2 men with intellectual disabilities to come and live with him. Werner discovered that this small sacrifice was a great blessing to him than it was to his new friends. He again began teaching others about the message of living in the community with people who were different from him. Jean Clavier called his small home Alachi, which is French for the ark. Werner's example inspired people all over the world to follow his example and also create communities in which people with intellectual and physical disabilities could live with others without those same disabilities and live together as families. Today there are more than 150 in 36 countries, all built on the principle of love that Jean Werner taught. Now, Kathleen did not expect Werner's talk that day to bring her to tears. She didn't know this routine journalistic assignment would change her life. But when Werner said, the quest is not just believing in God, but believing in other people, believing in ourselves as children of God, and that we are called to see other people as God sees them, not as we would like them to be. Now, his words changed Kathleen's life. Those words caused a shift in priorities. They caused her to see the world differently. She began looking for new opportunities to love others. A year later, Kathleen and her husband went a 2-week trip to Africa. On their visit, their guide asked them if he could introduce them to someone who was special. That someone special was an orphan named Vasco. Vasco's parents had died of AIDS, and Vasco lived as a beggar in the streets. He had a serious heart condition that was sapping his strength. Now, Kathleen and her husband, and made a commitment to love like Jesus. So they just couldn't walk away when they saw this child who was in need. They paid to bring Vasco to the U.S. for life-saving heart surgery. A year later, they legally adopted him. And then they discovered, just like Jean Vernon had discovered, that they received a greater blessing from this act of love. Today, Vasco is a healthy young college student. He's a living testament to the truth that loving like Jesus can really change lives. Now, how did Jesus prepare his disciples to carry on his mission after he was gone? The same way that he prepares us today, by giving us a singular purpose that requires sacrifice and that will change our life. This is what Jesus said. So now I'm giving you a new command. Love each other just as I have loved you. You should love each other. Your love for one another will prove to the world that you all are my disciples. Have a good week this coming week, and hopefully it won't be too long until we can be back together. And now may God bless you and keep you, and make his face shine upon you.